All right, welcome to another episode of The American Dream, the only show of its kind that goes against the grain of that negative media. We're unscripted, authentic, commercial-free, not owned by any network. So here's what you're going to see today. We've compiled interviews with some very inspirational people throughout the week to create one show airing all across the country. And don't forget, even though this is a national show, backyard. That being said, let's start The American Dream right now. Every single day, you are consumed with information. With the 24/7 negative news cycle and a pop culture that's polluting the airwaves, all selling out for the ratings game. Well, guess what? There's a more positive way to look at life. You live in the greatest city in the greatest country on the planet. Every day with our elite network of professionals, our goal is to educate, empower, and engage. And now it's time to fight for your American dream. All right, now for the word on the American Dream. Today we're going to be talking a lot about business on the show, so let's make the word about business. There's a big difference between business and busyness. You've heard me say on the show that I think it's the best opportunity in the history of mankind to aggregate attention and to build a brand online. But real business happens offline. As a great example, Amazon, #1 retailer that doesn't have a retail shop until they do. Why? Because people, they'll make their buying decisions online, but they'll still go into a store to purchase something. The point I'm making to all of you here is that if you're starting a business and you're doing stuff online, busyness is hiding behind that computer. Business happens out there in real life. The American Dream launched in 12 cities this year. Each one of them I visited twice to make sure that as we launch our program, as we integrate in professionals who you get to see on the show, we are truly vetting the best people that we've met in person. Real business happens in person, but now is one of the greatest opportunities ever to aggregate attention online. If you can combine both those worlds, you're going to have a really hiding behind that computer. That's the word on the American Dream. Real life cities this year to make sure that
I'm Jenn Morris, co-host of The American Dream. Are you interested in finance, real estate, entrepreneurship, or business? Well, you can follow us along online and watch more of our episodes.
Happens greatest opportunities ever to aggregate attention. Really successful plan. That's just hiding behind that computer. So word on the American Dream. Let's start twice to make sure. All right, welcome back to the show. Of course, a show called The American Dream. We're going to talk a little bit about business and that entrepreneurial spirit. Joining us on the show for the first time, Ashley Stahl, business owner, multiple business owner. Counterterrorism for the Pentagon when you were 23.
Yes.
And you love cake, is what we just learned.
That's the summary. The interview over.
Interview done.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I got to ask about being in counterterrorism for the Pentagon at 23. Wow, that's incredible. Tell us about that.
Well, I think a lot of people really struggle to figure out what they want to do with their lives. And in college, we're forced to come up with a major and commit to it. And so I was always curious about cultures. I was quick to learn foreign languages. And that, to me, felt like a formula to study government. And so I ended up pursuing it all the way. And when I graduated from grad school and had a master's in war, I literally couldn't find a job.
A master's in war.
As one does.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I really struggled to find a job despite this and despite, learning Arabic and French. And I related to so many people who couldn't find a job in the recession. It was like we were lied to. We were told that if you follow what you want to do, you get a degree, you can get a job and get paid, what you're worth. And that didn't happen for me.
Sure.
So it ended up translating into me being an admin assistant, making minimum wage, and eventually just quitting my job, moving to DC with $3,000 in my bank account and networking my heart out. I think I called more than 2,000 college alumni and ended up getting multiple job interviews from that and eventually landed a position running a program for the Pentagon.
Well, now you have a couple different businesses of your own. So you've branched off, you've kind of chased the dream, and you have 2 organizations that you now run? Tell us about those.
Well, I think a lot of the time what people struggle with is trying to figure out what their purpose is. And for me, I found that purpose is often on the periphery of following what feels good. So for me, I followed government, but what was my purpose on the periphery was becoming a really amazing job seeker in a time where nobody else could get a job.
Okay. So that's where you developed a skill set that you ultimately turned into a product that you can now basically sell.
Yeah.
Okay, give us an example of how you'd help someone. Someone's watching right now, they're confused, they're they're finding that their American dream is not coming true. How'd you get them started?
I think the first thing that is a huge misconception is people think that what they want to do is based on an industry they want to be in. Maybe they want to work in entertainment, or they want to work in, whatever it might be. What the first thing we try to figure out is, what is the skill set, not the industry? What are they naturally good at? What is their unique brilliance? And a lot of people will have a unique brilliance, but they don't want to be practicing it in the workforce. Like for me, I love to eat, but I'm not going to go be a food critic. And I think a lot of people get a little bit confused with that. And so we really focus on, what are you good at? I have a TED Talk on this with 3 questions. What are you good at? What do people tell you you're good at? And what's holding you back? And I really try to figure out, well, what are you naturally good at, and what is everybody noticing about you? And then I, as a career expert, and so many of my coaches on my team, we use our mindset and understanding of the workforce to come up with career paths that really seem to suit that skill set, regardless of the industry that they're interested in. That comes later.
Ashley, I wish we could keep you around longer, but we
I'm
got to run
having
here.
fun. Thanks for having me.
We'll have you on again, but you got a heck of a background. Counterterrorism, entrepreneur, TED Talks. Great guest. Thank you so much for coming on The American Dream.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope you can connect with Ashley online to learn more about her. More of the show coming up next.
Really seem set.
Hi, I'm Jenn Morris, co-host of The American Dream. Don't forget, you can always watch more of our content online and follow us along.
Hey, I'm having fun.
Again, but you have your background, counterterrorism, entrepreneur
so
dream.
Much for having me.
I hope you can connect with Ashley. We're going to talk a little bit today about startup marketing, all the things you have going on. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Craig. Appreciate it.
All right, man. So, entrepreneur, tell us about when you started.
Yeah, it all started back in 2009. So I was going to optometry school, wanted to become an optometry doctor, and just knew there was no way I was going through 4 years of school doing what everyone else was doing. So I started a website, optometrystudents.com. A year later, it was acquired by the American Optometric Association. And so I went on to just do a lot more business for 4 years straight, building this website up. Graduated in 2013 and just said, there's no way I'm stopping doing this online publishing type of thing. So started newgradoptometry.com, site for new graduates, content for new graduates.
Okay.
And it's now one of the largest eye care websites, in the profession. And so what we learned from that was a big market need around healthcare staffing, especially for this young healthcare professional generation. And so we started a new platform, covalentcareers.com, which is a career development platform for new healthcare professionals where you can find education, mentorship, and job opportunities all within one platform. And so now we're solving that need not in eye care, but also in allied health. So that's PT, OT, speech, et cetera, and onwards with the expansion.
Wow. So you're taking advantage of this online space. Let's talk about that for a moment, because I think, and I've said this before, it's the greatest opportunity in the history of mankind and marketers to aggregate attention, build a brand. You veered off from, that career path with doctors, lawyers, optometry. I mean, you pay all this money to then ultimately be in the space, and then you veer off into this kind of online world. I mean, is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's exactly what it is, and it's definitely a big sacrifice to go this route. You have to sacrifice and, potentially burn bridges to safety. So when I was leaving optometry, great 6-figure job, security, it's not going anywhere, and then saying, you know what, I'm gonna get paid nothing to go and do this. That's a leap of faith, but you're right, the online channels, the online market, this younger millennial generation has never had kind of this layup to enter this space. And there's tools available for them, and I think a lot of people are taking advantage of it. It's very exciting.
It's also challenging, right? You have to have a certain type of genetic makeup, I think, nature versus nurture. I mean, I don't know which side of the argument it's on, but you have to be super ambitious to have success, whether it's that online or offline world. Would you agree that, and you don't have to, but that a lot of people are chasing that online dream, but not actually putting in the work? I mean, the things that you've done with Covalent Career and everything leading up, I mean, you're right. You burned the bridge. You took huge risk, and I'm sure coming out of optometry school, you had debt.
Absolutely,
I mean,
still do.
So everything you did was very high risk, but ultimately can be high reward. How do we combat the high risk? How do you coach people on that?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I think for one, the sacrifice component is there. And ideas are a dime a dozen. A lot of people have ideas, and it's like, I could do this, I can do that. Ideas don't matter. It's executing on those ideas. It's having the courage to make the right decisions, and have a decision-making process where you mitigate that downside risk. And so ultimately, for people who are kind of on the fence, should I go, should I do it, I'd really just say, what is your plan? What are your goals? What does that execution strategy look like? And the more information you have and the ability to stress test those ideas with other believable people can enable one to take the jump. And so what I mean by that is passing those great ideas. Say like someone wants to get into media, doing what you're doing. You're a believable person there. They should be passing their plans on to you saying, is this an accurate plan? Am I calculating this correctly? And if so, if you stress test those ideas, making that jump becomes far easier. Certainly hardship along the way, but you've got to stress test those
Am I
ideas.
connecting the dots a bit on what you're doing here at Covalent Careers?
Yep.
Okay,
absolutely.
So explain real quickly what exactly you guys do. If someone wants to connect with you online, learn more, what are they going to find?
Yeah, so Covalent Careers, individuals can create a profile or visit one of our educational sites, a variety of educational sites that we teach these fundamental lessons and ultimately find jobs. But it's through that process of educating correctly and then finding that correct position that you'll ultimately find career and workplace happiness. That's what we're aiming for.
Awesome, man. Well, you've walked the walk, right? You don't just talk the talk. I mean, you've actually done this yourself. Now you're leading this Covalent Careers. I hope our audience will connect with you and learn more.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks, Matt.
Appreciate
it. Ideas are easy. Execution,
jobs, it's
a whole different ball game. More of the American Dream coming up next.
Find career and workplace happiness. That's what we're aiming for.
Awesome, man.
Well,
as you know, the American Dream is a national program where we focus on business, the entrepreneurial spirit, overcoming adversity, finance, market, all things that are relevant to empowering your American Dream. But a big topic of conversation on this show is housing. So what we do is we integrate subject, different micro markets, different niche subject matter. Housing is such a big topic, so we're going to bring you a lot of information right now from some of the best in your market. Check out these interviews.
That's what
awesome, man.
My next guest specializes in helping home buyers acquire their dream homes at an even dreamier price. We want to welcome back onto the American Dream, Margie Halem of the Margie Halem Group within Long & Foster's Christie's International. Margie, thank you so much for being back on the American Dream.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I know that it's such a competitive market, especially in the DC area right now for you, Margie. How do you prepare your buyers when there's 10, 20 other offers potentially coming in on the same property?
Well, the first thing I do when I meet with buyers is explain to them that our spring market is so fast and that if you want to buy a house in this marketplace, you have to be competitive. That means being pre-qualified, having your ducks in a row, having your down payment set aside, making sure that your credit scores are acceptable. And then your plan is really to learn where you want to be so when that house comes on the market, you're ready to go.
So then, Margie, what do buyers need to do to win?
Well, there's a lot of things they need to do to win. One is make sure they're with the right agent that's aggressive and can get their offer through. And a lot of that means having a home inspection prior to submitting the offer. If the listing agent will allow that, that's a great way to go in clean as is. That demonstrates your commitment. I always think strength of a deposit is really important. You can actually even, if you're going to have a home inspection, because there are first-time buyers who are very concerned about not having one, is to say, look, I really want this house. I want to show the seller certainty. I will pay the first $3,000 towards repairs. So the seller knows, look, we're not going to be nickel and dime. These people are sincere, but they're not going to buy a house without a home inspection. So at least that gives the seller some comfort.
That's a great
another
tip.
I had a transaction recently where buyers actually wrote a check to the seller, just saying, please take my offer. Here's $5,000. It's yours. You can have it today. And to show, again, their level of commitment. And we got that house.
Now, you, as you're mentioning now, are an aggressive agent. What are some of the most unusual things you've ever had a client do or you've ever seen done when there's so much competition here for that perfect place?
Well, so the most unusual thing that I ever done, and actually this was twice so far in my 30-plus year career, is actually had a buyer who was really committed and wanted the property to write a check directly to the seller saying, here you go, take my offer. I know I'm one of 5 offers, but here's a check that you can cash today if you go with me. So I think that's really shows a seller that somebody is committed if they're willing to walk away,
right,
from a non-refundable check. And that's separate from the earnest money deposit check. That's just a check. It's a gift, basically, to the seller.
And money certainly talks in that situation.
Right.
What are your thoughts on personalizing an offer?
I think that there are some sellers that are very emotionally connected to their property, and they want to get a letter and they want to read about your family and your life and your love for the home. But also, it's a business decision in many ways. And so I think that you just have to be careful on how you write the letter. But sometimes the letter can really help.
Well, I want to talk to you about another home that is a perfect home. I'm sure that many people out there will be clamoring for this property. It's in a great community in Park Potomac. Tell me a little bit about this listing of yours.
Well, first of all, Park Potomac is a wonderful community, really easy access to 270 to the interstate and 10 minutes, to here and there. But it is a community where you can walk everywhere. There's restaurants and shopping, and there's just a draw to it. People love it. And this is an end unit townhouse for $898. It's perfect for somebody who's downsizing from their larger home in Potomac, and or somebody that's just here 9 months out of the year and spend some time in Florida. It's just a wonderful, wonderful townhome, pristine, ready to go, high ceilings, hardwood floors, state-of-the-art kitchen, really quite lovely. Roof deck, very nice.
Well, and maybe some of the people putting in an offer on this property should maybe take some of your advice that you've given us here today. Margie Halem,
yes,
thank you so much for being back on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And we encourage our viewers to reach out to Margie if you are interested in this property or any others in the DC metro market. She is the woman to go to, one of the best in the business. And we encourage our viewers to also reach out to us, AmericanDreamNetwork.tv. We love to hear what you have to say. We can lead you in any direction you are looking to go. And we'll be right back with more of the show. My next guest is Kristy Moore, founder and principal broker of Local Expert Realty. Kristy, thank you so much for being back on the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So today we're talking about something that I think everybody does in one way or another, which is online home evaluations. Tell me how that affects the market and how that affects buyers and sellers that are coming to you thinking that their homes might be worth X, but really they're worth Z.
I think it's really interesting, actually, to kind of see the dynamic of what's going on right now with the online home evaluations and how people are making their decisions, because at the end of the day, people make decisions based on emotion, not logic. And your house isn't worth a specific dollar amount. It's worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. So it's a good place to start. It's not necessarily a good place to finish as far as deciding what you're going to pay for a property or how much a property is actually worth.
Do you think that it affects buyers and sellers differently? Somewhere subconsciously, all of the buyers are looking at the homes that maybe are evaluated a little bit lower, and all of the sellers seem to think that their properties might be worth a little bit more?
Well, I think sellers always think their property is worth more regardless. So that's another subject entirely. But I think that it's interesting because a buyer will fall in love with the house, and then online it will say that it's worth $50,000 less than what it's listed for, and yet it has multiple offers and is selling for $25,000 more than asking. And then they lose out on their dream home and something that they absolutely wanted and loved because they were getting false information on the property value. And the same with the sellers. They make decisions based on what the online home evaluation says, whether it's high or low. I mean, we've seen them off as much as $150,000. Especially in the high-end market. So it's really tough for a computer to tell you what your house is worth since it hasn't really seen your house. at least not lately anyway.
Right, absolutely. And I know that when we were talking earlier, you said that this even happened to you, that you purchased a home under tens of thousands under what a company online that rhymes with Willow said, and you sold it for well over what it said it was worth when you sold it.
Well, that's a perfect example, because had it seen the house, it would know that it was a giant mess. I mean, the house wasn't even financeable. It was such a mess. So of course we bought it for a lot less than what it said it was worth online. And then when we bought it for less, the value went down online. But then after it was fixed up, we sold it for $50,000 over what it actually said it was worth.
That's incredible. So the lesson here, the moral of this story is hire a professional such as yourself, someone who really knows the market, so that you get the most bang for your buck.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, there's so many things that affect your property value. And like I said, at the end of the day, a buyer is going to buy your house based on the emotional aspect of it and how you maximize the feeling that they get when they walk through your house. So it's really not just about a dollar figure. It's about all of the factors that affect your bottom line.
Well, Kristy Moore, we just have a little bit of time left. I want to ask how it's going for you so far in 2018. How is the real estate market looking in your area?
It's been really great. We just had 100 people through a house this past weekend and sold it for over asking price. So we expect this to be a really good market this year, and we'll see how it ends up. But so far, it's been really wonderful.
Well, it's always so wonderful talking with you. Kristy, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And we would love to hear from you as well. Reach out to us online, AmericanDreamNetwork.tv, and follow us along on social media. We love to connect with our viewers, and we will be right back with more of The American Dream. Welcome back to The American Dream. If you've ever wondered how to best prepare your home for market, well, my next guest has all the answers you will need. We want to welcome back to the show Jane Fairweather, president of the Jane Fairweather team of Coldwell Banker. Jane, thank you so much for being back on The American Dream.
My pleasure.
This must be a question that you get asked quite often, Jane. I'm sure that people are coming to you saying, how do I need to best prepare my home to get top dollar when it goes to market? What do you have to say to your clients when they ask you that?
You're so right about that. I mean, people are always asking me that. I always like to start a listing appointment with a tour of the home. Here's where I make suggestions about decluttering and also suggestions about whether there needs to be fresh paint or fresh carpet or cleaned carpet, or if something outside needs to be tended to, like mulching or planting some colorful flowers. This is also the perfect time to discuss the benefits of professional staging.
Do you always recommend staging to your clients?
Well, it depends. You know, some clients are really open about it, and some clients it just takes a little bit of time to convince them. But here's the thing, residential sales are emotional decisions. Staging helps us get an excited and positive emotional response from buyers. Professionally staged homes sell faster and at better prices than vacant homes or homes that have old furniture and dated decor. 40 minutes is the average time a buyer spends in a staged home compared to 6 to 9 minutes in a vacant home.
My guess is that the cost of staging might be the biggest issue for people looking to sell their property. What do you have to say to your clients that are worried about the cost there?
So cost is certainly an issue when staging your house for market. We do have options. Sometimes just using colorful art and adding bright, colorful throw pillows to a dark couch can make the room stand out. We also like to dress beds with colorful quilts, throws, and pillows to create a compelling and appealing presentation. This is a service we offer as just part of what we do for sellers. It's not added cost. Other times, just staging key rooms like the kitchen, family room, dining room, and master bedroom in some capacity is always a smart choice.
Now, Jane, one of the reasons that you're here today is to talk to us about something called virtual staging, which I think is so fascinating. For our viewers that don't know about it, that haven't really heard about it before, tell us about virtual staging and what exactly it is.
We love virtual staging as an option, especially for vacant homes. Virtual staging is when we photograph an empty room and then virtually decorate it with furniture, art, and other decorative items. We can do any room with a variety of different furniture and colors. Because most buyers begin their search online, virtual staging gives us spectacular photos and helps us get the buyers in the door. Virtual staging helps drive potential buyers into the house. If given the choice, I do prefer actual staging, but when money is tight, virtual staging is a wonderful tool to have in our toolbox.
Why is staging suddenly so important in the industry?
Well, the internet has changed everything. Staging has become more important because 97% of all buyers shop online before they ever walk into a home. Your online presentation can determine whether the buyers click trash or add your house to their favorites. Favorites get shown, and this is our goal.
Jane Fairweather, always a pleasure to have you on the show. You certainly are one of the best in the business. And we encourage our viewers to reach out to you, janefairweather.com. Thank you again for being on The American Dream today.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.
And if you have any other questions, reach out to us or follow us along on social media. We always love to hear from you, and we will be right back with more of The American Dream.
You just heard from award-winning realtors about your marketplace. It's one thing to find your dream home. It's another thing to finance it. I've traveled the country to find the best mortgage experts in every city. You're going to hear from yours in a Mortgage Minute right now. Let's check it out.
I want to talk to you about one of the most misunderstood things in the mortgage business, and that's APR. It's a government-required number that you're supposed to use when shopping for a mortgage. It stands for annual percentage rate. It actually has very little meaning, and let me tell you why. When you're comparing APRs, the assumption is the lower the APR, the lower cost it is to you. Well, that's sort of true sometimes, and here's what I mean. The APR is a comparison of the two loans that you're looking at over the entire term of the loan. So if that's a 30-year loan, it would be for the complete 30 years. The fact of the matter is, most people don't keep loans for 30 years, and the APR could actually end up being lower, or the actual cost could be lower on the loan with a higher APR over a shorter term. Another thing is what's included in calculation of an APR. It's really the cost that you entail in the loan, but it's also the interest that you pay up front on that loan when you go to closing. The interesting thing is that you could close any day of the month, and if you close earlier in the month, that number is going to be higher, making the APR higher, when in fact the loan does not cost any more. So it's really a misleading number, and it's really open to a lot of manipulation by those who calculate it. So you really have to be careful. If you want to be safe, in my opinion, the best way to make sure you're getting a good, solid deal is have a great referral from someone you trust to a mortgage professional. When you do that, you don't have to worry about things like APR being manipulated.
Educate, empower, and engage your American dream. Don't forget to follow us online and join us next week for another episode. See you next time.